Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, the latest Texans practice news, some news and notes from around the NFL, and some possible free agent targets for your Houston Texans. We'll get into that in just a moment, but I have a quick question to start us off today. And I was having a debate with a couple other Texans fans on X. We were kind of talking, what was the best addition that the Texans made this offseason? I'm talking draft, free agency, trade, all of it. If you had to name one, who would it be? Would it be Danielle Hunter? Would it be Joe Mixon or Stephon Diggs? Maybe it's one of the draft picks. Maybe it's a Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, Blake Fisher. You can only choose one. No cheating. Let me know down in the comment section the number one best addition made by the Houston Texans this offseason. Now, getting into some practice notes, some really good notes right here. Kamari Lassiter, maybe your choice for the best addition that the Texans made this offseason, was back at practice today, suited up, going through drills. Really good to see that. The second-round pick out of Georgia. He is projected to be the starting outside corner opposite of Derek Stingley. So it is great news for this Texans defense to have this guy, number 14, back there on the practice field. Another guy that I'm really glad to see back out there, Tytus Howard. You know, there was the whole thing the other day where he was carted off. Really, he walked off under his own power, went to the blue medical tent, then got carted back to the locker room. But he was back at practice today, suited out along with Laramie Tunsil. So good news for C.J. Stroud and company that the two tackles, the two bookends of this offensive line, both back out there at practice today. Now, some not so good news. Not practicing today was Christian Harris. We, talked about, we were so happy to have him back. Him and Joe Mixon came back the same day back at practice, but then he kind of tweaked that calf a little bit, and it seems like they're being overly cautious with Christian Harris, making sure this doesn't kind of roll into the regular season. Was not practicing today. I don't think we'll see Christian Harris during the preseason, and at this point, I would say he's questionable to go week 1 up against the Indianapolis Colts. Really need to keep an eye out on Christian Harris and this injury to see if it rolls in to the regular season. Now, not some Texans news, but some news around the NFL. J.J. McCarthy having to have surgery on a torn meniscus in his knee that he suffered against the Raiders in that preseason game this past weekend. And how this affects the Texans is the Texans play the Vikings early on in the year. And with this news, with the surgery, I would say 99% chance we're not going to see J.J. McCarthy up against the Houston Texans. It is more than likely going to be Sam Darnold. So for people kind of wondering, will we get that rookie matchup up against the Minnesota Vikings? Not going to happen now. Not going to happen. It's going to be Sam Darnold going up against the Texans in their matchup early on in the season. Now, to stay up to date with everything going on around the Houston Texans, other teams in the NFL, your one-stop shop for Texans football is right here at Texans Today. Don't miss a thing. Make sure you go down and hit that sub button. We are so close. So close to getting to 20,000 subscribers here on the channel. I want to get there during the first month of the regular season, but I need your help. If you haven't subbed already, it's 100% free, and you get daily Texans content. There's really nothing to lose. Now, the first update I kind of wanted to talk about on today's show was a former Texan who just got released today by the Miami Dolphins, and that is Teair Tart, released by the Dolphins today, the defensive tackle. He played with the Texans last season after being claimed off of waivers from the Tennessee Titans, and obviously the Texans, ever since the suspension of Denico Autry, there's been kind of mumblings, rumors of will they add to this defensive tackle room since they won't get Autry in the first 6 games of the season. Teair Tart, obviously familiar with the coaching staff, familiar with the organization, and could he kind of fit into this Texans depth chart on the defensive tackle side? Right now, we've talked about Mario Edwards Jr. He is the de facto starter now that Denico Autry is suspended for those first 6 games. And then behind him, you kind of have this mishmash of Khalil Davis, Marcus Harris, Tim Settle, of guys who can kind of rotate in at defensive tackle. But, I mean, I don't know how well they feel about guys like Davis, Settle, or Harris. So if they're not 100% confident or ready to go for the regular season, could they go back and sign a guy like Teair Tart to a veteran minimum contract, bring him in, and have him be like the 4th or 5th defensive tackle in this rotation? It's at least worth, kicking the tires on. Now, I do have one note, and I was talking to our Dolphins host because obviously he was with the Dolphins this offseason. I said, why did they end up, releasing Teair Tart? And He simply said he sucks. So, I mean, obviously, we're not talking about a guy who we're going to sign to start for this Texans team, but obviously a name that the Texans are familiar with, so could be an option if they desperately need depth at the defensive tackle position. Now, it does kind of go along with this because the Texans, they did re-sign Feldarius Payne, and I know he's more of a tweener, more of a like edge. I feel like he's more of a 3-4 edge, and then in the 4-3 could run some of that 3 technique. But they did re-sign the UDFA out of Virginia Tech yesterday, so they already kind of added to this room. Could they look to add some more with a guy like Teair Tart? Now, up next, are the Texans fully out on signing Justin Simmons? I know I'm beating a dead horse here, and I know you're probably like, guys, haven't we already gone through this? Well, Bleacher Report, they don't think so. They think the Texans are still in on Justin Simmons. I'll break down what they had to say in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. If you want to see what I am rolling with, these were my season-long projections that I put in with Prize Picks, and I'm rolling with them. I promise you're not going to be able to get these numbers now, but this is the great thing about getting it in early. Giggity. If you really want to make some money over on Prize Picks, I would implore you to go now and see what their season-long projections are for these guys at this very moment, because whenever I got in, I got C.J. Stroud more than 26.5 passing touchdowns this year. Saquon Barkley more than 1,055.5 rush yards this season. And Danielle Hunter more than 10.75 sacks on the year. A steal, if you ask me. It's like taking candy from a baby. So go check it out today over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, we've talked at nauseum about the Texans signing Justin Simmons this offseason because it seemed like the Texans could have needed, safety help throughout this offseason, throughout training camp and this whole process. But they kind of refuted those reports on multiple stances that the Texans are interested in Justin Simmons. We had a source off the other week between guys. Obviously, I really do respect his opinion and what he has to say on Texans news and rumors. But Patrick Storm had said, Justin Simmons, he had a contract in place with the Houston Texans. And then Aaron Wilson, multiple other reports said, the Texans have not offered Justin Simmons a contract. Who do I believe? Well, it really doesn't matter who I believe. But it does matter if the Texans are slightly interested in Justin Simmons, because he recently had meetings with the Saints and the Falcons to determine his next team, but he left the Saints without a contract. I don't know if he signs with the Falcons after meeting with him. As of right now, there has been no word on whether or not Justin Simmons is signing with the Atlanta Falcons. So could he still be in play for the Houston Texans? I'll give my answer in just a moment, but I want to hear from you folks at home. Give me the % chance the Texans sign Justin Simmons. If you think there is no way on God's green earth that the Texans are signing Justin Simmons, give me a 0. If you think it's a done deal, type in 100. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. The % chance the Texans sign Justin Simmons. Well, I do know, along with, people within the organization saying, we don't have interest in Justin Simmons, Texans defensive coordinator Matt Burke has talked very highly of the safety room, and he says, I don't think we need to add anybody. I really love what we have in the safety room right now. You have Jimmy Ward, you have Jalen Petrie, who, it's interesting, they kind of have moved his position a little bit. He's not really playing any more deep safety. A lot of what we saw in the preseason game and in practice has seen Jalen Petrie playing really close to the line of scrimmage, playing in that kind of slot safety role, hybrid linebacker almost. And then you have the rookie, Kalen Bullock. So the Texans, they say they feel comfortable with the safety room, but Bleacher Report, they're calling BS. They're saying, no, the Texans do not feel comfortable, and they should add Justin Simmons to this squad. This is exactly what Bleacher Report had to say in a recent article linking the Texans to Justin Simmons. The Texans just might realize they aren't a fan of where their safety depth is when they take a final look over their roster before the season. Jalen Pitre is a good tone setter for them in the secondary, and Jimmy Ward brings a lot of experience, but he might be needed in the slot. The Texans have rookie Kalen Bullock and Eric Murray behind them, Pitre and Ward. Justin Simmons is one of the best free agents remaining. The Texans have about $17.8 million in cap room to make something happen. Now, my take on all this is I really don't see it happening. I think if the Texans did have interest in Justin Simmons and if the Texans did want to sign Justin Simmons, they'd be in on the sweepstakes. They'd be in talking with Justin Simmons just like the Saints, just like the Falcons did. There's been no reports that the Texans have had any meetings planned with Justin Simmons or plan on meeting with Justin Simmons. Even though I think that's the right move that the Texans should do, I do think that they should go out and sign Justin Simmons. I think the team seems content with letting rookie Kalen Bullock kind of take over that free safety role and letting their depth take over with guys like MJ Stewart and Eric Murray. Even though I don't think it's the right move, even though I think they should go out and sign Justin Simmons, in my opinion, I don't see the Texans making that move this offseason. And there's actually one more thing that I had to discuss because I saw it all over X the other day, and I just want to just put it out there. It's not happening. The Texans are not trading for Hassan Reddick. I saw all the memes. I saw all the people saying, oh, could the Texans possibly trade this guy and this guy for Hassan Reddick? Could the Texans add Hassan Reddick to this defensive line? I mean, it makes no sense. It's a guy who really wants to get paid. The Texans not looking to really be in the market of paying a high-profile defensive end when they have Danielle Hunter already, who they signed this offseason, and they have Will Anderson, who they want to develop and continue to give snaps. So if you trade for a guy like Hassan Reddick, that's taking snaps away from Will Anderson more than likely, and that's something the Texans do not want to do. So I know he already requested a trade from the Jets after being traded from the Eagles this offseason. Texans, not a fit for Reddick, though, in my opinion. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to continue the conversation, go ahead and give me a follow over on X at Jeremy Chuggs. And I made a brand new Texans Today IG page. It's at Texans Today CS. I'll put that link down in the comment section for you. Make sure you go give it a follow. We just passed 200 followers. Woo! So join the crew and make sure you follow me over on IG for more Texans updates, more Texans, shorts, videos, everything around the Houston Texans. This is where you need to follow me over on IG. I'll put that link down in the comment section and description of today's video.